Today more than ever, it's important that you give a good presentation on camera when virtually interviewing. And there's three things that you can do to really solidify your chances of getting a job. The first is, of course, the presentation and the presence you bring. I did a video on presence that I urge you to watch, but just one thing to consider when you're delivering online is that your presence or bearing during the interview is based on the size that you take up within the camera recording. So whereas I have a full profile here, so I have much more of a presence that creates a respect. If I really shrink up, and this is how I look on the camera, I look small to the interviewer. So watch the video I did on delivery, but then really recognize that the size that you are plays an impact on the presence you bring to the interview. Number two is that mental emotional game. One thing people always ask is, how do I build more confidence during an interview? Or how do I calm my nerves? Research shows that if, let's say, 15 minutes before an interview, before you go into the interview, if you think about, for a few minutes, a time you had power. So this could mean a time that you were in control of resources, or you were managing a team. Whatever the situation is, a time where you had an experienced power. When you bring that to mind and you think about it for 3 or 4 minutes, really reflecting on it, it reconnects you to that state of empowerment. When you go into the interview then you appear more confident and you garner more respect. In fact, research shows you're 81% more likely to get the job if you do this. 81%, wow, right? So the second thing you can do in terms of confidence and that respect is 15 minutes again before an interview. Think about what are the 2 or 3 top values for you in your life. Now, this doesn't mean like career-wise. In your life, what are the 2 or 3 most important things to you? Maybe they're freedom or connection or self-expression. And when you reflect on those values for, again, 3 or 4 minutes, thinking about it or writing down, it connects you, it anchors you into your inner sense of self. So that when you go into that interview, it's not like you're there begging or trying to impress them so hard, where that's very low power and actually loses the chance of getting a job. But you come in feeling confident, knowing who you are, and then really demonstrating your skills to show that there's a fit with the position. That's the mental emotional game. The third thing now is the actual content, the communication. One thing I always recommend for all interviews is a few days before the interview, write down all the skills, achievements, and ways that you think about problems on a paper. Really brainstorm all the great things about you. Narrow that list to 5 things. And then when you go into the interview, you really know what those 5 things are that you absolutely want the interviewer to know about you. Now, if it's virtual, you have a little list you can put right next to you. It's super easy, right? And as they're asking you questions, you just pick one of those 5 things and share that as your answer. You see, the one thing you don't need to do is waste all this time practicing how to answer all these different questions, like what is your strength? Tell me about yourself, da 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 da. Because what you really want to do is control the information flow that gets to them. These are the 5 things in your history or your skills or your abilities you need them to know that you're a good fit. And then as they ask you questions, you use each of those questions to bring up one of those things and bring it and share it. So obviously the quintessential, tell me about yourself. You're not going to start with, well, I ski, these slopes, and in the summer, here's where I grew up. You're going to be like, oh, well, this position looks for project management. Let me tell you about my project management experience from 2019. And da, 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 da. And you also mentioned good communication skills. Here's some of my communication experience. You see, so you have that list next to you, it can just, flow. Another thing you can do for communication, the last thing I'm going to leave you with, is to make sure that you align with the audience. One thing, when I was interviewing a CEO of an international recruiting firm, he said he recommends all his clients, before they go into an interview, all the interviewees, he says at the beginning of the interview, ask the interviewer, okay, I read the job description, but in your own words, what are you looking for? And then they'll tell you exactly what they're looking for in the job. And now you might have that in your list, or there might be other things on your bigger list that you didn't put in the 5 things that you need them to know. And now you know this is something they absolutely needs to know. And so you bring that and make sure somewhere in the interview you'll share that. In fact, I remember one time I had an interview a while back, and I was answering, it was perfect. Everything was going great. I was like, I'm nailing the questions. And at the end of the interview, they told me that they wanted something which I had totally not recognized. And I didn't end up getting the job. I answered all these questions perfectly, bullseye, hitting the bullseyes, and they were the wrong targets. So it's very important at the beginning of the interview that you recognize, again, what does this interviewer in specific want of your skills? You can make sure that's on your list to share. These are the three things that it really can do to succeed in a virtual interview. One, there's a physiological, physical game, right? The delivery, take up space within the camera frame. Number two is the mental, emotional game. Connect with your inner power. Number three is the communication game. Make sure that you deliver the information that they need, that you've prepared that, and that you connect with what they are looking for. Good luck in your next interview.